This time in the Quick Speed Shop, I'm going to show you how to disassemble this Ford 8-inch rear end. Alright, this is the Model A Hot Rod Shop Truck rear end, the build series that I've been working on. You can follow along with that. But let's go back in time. What I'm doing is disassemble this thing down to the bare housing so I can paint the housing and change the front pumpkin set. So I've already pulled the brakes and the axle shaft and the backing plate off this side. Let's go back in time and I'll show you how I did that. To get the axles out, you've got to unbolt the backing plates, and to do that you got to remove all the brake parts. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the brake parts first, and then pull the axles and backing plates, and I will take this outside, wire wheel it real fast, and hit it with the Eastwood rust converter. These are pretty much standard drum brake here, set up here. You got two, this one, where is it? There it is. You got two spring, coil springs. They're on little clips here to hold the shoes to the backing plates. You got your upper tension springs, you got a lower tension spring. Your emergency brake cable and adjuster is down here, and then you've got a cable down to hold the adjuster taut, and then you've got a crossbar which keeps tension on both shoes. Then you got the wheel cylinder in here. So the first thing I want to do is take my pliers. Now they make special tools for all taking the brake parts apart. I don't have any. I've got one thing here. I've got this tool which goes on here to spin these apart. And I know they make tools to get the springs apart and all that, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to take my pliers and wrestle them off there. So here we go. Oh. I'm trying not to get hit in the face with springs. Oh man. You get pull the hook off the spring, then it comes out of here. This one looks a little trickier. It's gonna be hard to get this off of here. There we go. Bam. Now, tip when you're working on these is I used the camera and I took a picture of all this because I'm not going to be putting it together for a little bit. So use your camera and take a picture of how things work, that way you don't have a surprise later on. Now with the upper springs off, you can get down here, get this lower spring out of here, which goes and hooks to this cable. Come on! That's your lower spring, which keeps tension on the adjuster below. So I got that off. Now you can take this plate off of here. There's a plate that rubs on the adjuster. There's a little cable that runs it up here. You can take that loose. Now the shoes are ready to come off. Go ahead and get in here. Push on these. They're rusty, they're fighting me. There we go. It's a quarter turn on that piece there. Get off there. You can see the adjuster fell out here. This way it keeps the tension on your shoes. Lost a little piece here that goes on over here. Gotta watch that. I'll take the balance bar out at this time. And there's a little piece up here that goes between the shoes and the springs. This retainer is fighting me. There we go. Oh, some brake fluid. This pivot, or this wheel cylinder arm is stuck right on here. Don't lose this. So goes on here. That's for your cable. You're going to want to go ahead and save all these parts, because you'll need things like this emergency brake. This emergency brake bar here clips on here. You'll need to reuse this bar when you get your new shoes and all that. And this piece here for the cable, or for the adjuster detent, you'll need all that. So you buy a new hardware kit, you usually get the springs, the cable, the adjuster pieces, these pins, but you'll need to reuse your brake adjuster unless you buy new ones, and the balance bar and all that. You need to reuse all that, so don't throw that stuff away. And then here you can see in the axle, there's these holes in the axle face. This large one here will allow you to get through and get to the 4 nuts that hold the backing plate on and also retain the axle. So I can pull those off and then pull the axle and all that right out of here. But I'm first going to use the I'm going to pull the wheel cylinder out first. So there's 2 1/2-inch bolts on the back side. Let me go ahead and pop that out. You always want to save your wheel cylinder hardware. They're usually pretty short bolts, specialized, to save those. Here's the wheel cylinder where the brake line goes here, and your bleeder. These are always right and left. So I'm going to save all this, everything here, until I go and put this back together. We got the brake stripped off. Here's the emergency brake cable, which has been cut off here. It's got little detainer clips here that you need to push down, and then this will come out of the hole. Get out of there. These spring detents hold it in there. Sometimes it's a struggle to get them out. So there we go. We got our brake stripped down. Alright, now that I got all the bolts removed from the backing plate, you can see that's loose here. There's a retainer on the axle. I'm going to go ahead and tug on the axle, and hopefully it'll come out of here. If it's stuck, you can take your brake drum and put it on backwards and use it as a slide hammer. But I have the brake drums out getting turned, so I can't do that right now, but hopefully they'll pull out. This will pull out easily. I've also got a pan under here to catch any gear oil that might come out. So let me try to go ahead and tug this axle out of here. Alright, I can't, it's being stubborn, I can't get it. I've got a brake drum that'll fit this. I gotta go get out of my stash, and I'll use that to pull these out. Alright, got a Dodge Diplomat brake drum here. It's the same bolt pattern, so it'll bolt on like this. Simply gonna use this as a slide hammer. Try to coax this axle out of here. I'll put the lug nuts on backwards so the flat face is facing the surface of the drum. Just need to put 3 on here, a couple threads, and use it like a slide hammer. Ready? Here we go. There we go. The axle popped free. So carefully pull the axle out of here. Just like so. Bam! Here's your axle. The outer bearing here. Oh, just looks like it. I guess it's alright. Looked bad for a second. So there's the axle and backing plate assembly. There's an axle seal inside this tube here, which I'm going to change. Oh, we got a little bit of grit in here. I got to inspect that bearing for debris and functionality. Alright, there we go. I got the other axle out. You can see here there are 2 different heights. This is the driver's side, and the passenger side is the long one. So here's a tip. If I wanted to build a car where, say this is a rear end that came out of a lot wider car than this one, and it's got the offset gear set here in an 8-inch Ford and 9-inch Ford. The axles are offset, one's longer than the other one. If I wanted to narrow this at home, I could cut the passenger side axle tube and get another driver's side axle and measure this distance, shorten it the same amount of distance, then re-weld the shortened axle tube on the passenger side, and I could use 2 driver's side axles to effectively narrow this rear end without using any aftermarket axles or having these cut and re-splined. So it won't work with all rear ends, but on like an 8-inch Ford or a 9-inch Ford where your carrier is offset, you can use 2 driver's side axles to narrow a rear end cheap and easy at home. So there's a tip for you. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this up. We're going to yank the center section out of this, and then the housing will be stripped down ready for paint. Got a bunch of 9/16 bolts here. Got 2, 4, looks like 10 bolts to remove. I'm just going to go ahead and scrape some of the grunge away from this so it doesn't get in the housing when I'm wrenching on it. Alright, got all the nuts free. I've never taken one of these off before, so I don't know how hard they come off. I'm gonna guess that it's stuck on here pretty good. Oh yeah. I'm going to keep working at it. I can see it's cracked the grease. I just got to keep tapping all the way around without damaging anything. It's got a fat gasket, so I'm able to get this edge in here and get it cracked loose. I think it'll pop loose. So let me go ahead and tap around on this a bunch and see how it goes. Alright, so it turns out the little copper washers that were on every one of these studs were mushed down into the hole, and it was making this thing super tight. And I've got them all off now. I had to fight them off. But I think this will pop off here now. I've got it freed up a little bit, and it should. There we go. That's what it was. Those little copper washers were locking this thing on there. So I'm going to get my drain pan going here. Actually, let's roll this up. We can lift it straight up here. This will cooperate. I can pry this straight up maybe. And get down under it. There we go. Appears to be free at this time. Let's see if I can pull it. Alright, now something's happening. Come on. There we go. Ah, man. Whew. That was a lot harder than it needed to be. So here is the center section. Doesn't look too bad so far. Let me make a spot to set this aside. There we go. Now the rear end is completely disassembled. I can clean up the housing and paint it for my project here. And when I get ready and everything's all painted, I can put a new gasket surface on the center section. I'm going to save this one for the future. It's a 279 gear set. I've got a 355 limited slip to go into this. I'll clean that up and paint this and put new seals in the ends of the axle tubes. New gasket on the third member, put the third member in. And then new brakes, and this thing will be ready to go for another 45, 50 years. So that's it. This is how to disassemble a 4 to 8 inch rear end. This pretty much applies to a 9 inch rear end as well because they're very similar architecture. So as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Tell your friends, hit the bell for the alerts, and as always, we'll see you here again at the Quick Speed Shop.